Ernst Jünger, born in 1895, grew up in a Germany teetering on the brink of change. The German Empire was a rising power, its industries booming, its military flexing its muscles. This atmosphere of nationalistic fervor deeply influenced young Ernst. He, like many of his generation, saw war as a grand adventure, a test of manhood. Junger's youthful idealism led him to volunteer for the army as soon as World War I erupted. He was eager to prove himself in the crucible of combat. Little did he know the horrors he would witness would forever shape his worldview and literary legacy. The Western Front was a living hell. Millions of men faced each other across a desolate no-man's land, locked in a stalemate of unimaginable brutality. Jünger, as a young officer, witnessed the horrors firsthand. He participated in some of the war's most brutal battles, including the Somme and Passchendaele. Amidst the constant shelling, machine gun fire and poison gas attacks, death became a constant companion. Jünger, despite the horrors he witnessed, was drawn to the intensity of combat. He saw it as a test, not only of physical courage, but also of one's inner strength. He developed a deep respect for the resilience of the human spirit, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. This almost Nietzschean embrace of hardship, of pushing oneself to the limit, became a recurring theme in his writing. The war, for Jünger, was more than just a physical conflict. It was a transformative experience that forced him to confront the fragility of life and the depths of human nature. He saw both the barbarity that war unleashed and the acts of courage and selflessness it could inspire. This duality, this recognition of both the light and shadow within humanity, informed his later philosophical reflections. Instal is not for the faint of heart. Jünger's descriptions of combat are graphic and unflinching. He doesn't shy away from the gore, the fear, the sheer chaos of the battlefield. He describes the deafening roar of artillery, the stench of rotting corpses, the screams of the wounded, all with a chilling detachment. This almost clinical style, devoid of overt sentimentality, only serves to amplify the horror of his words. The book is more than just a recounting of battles. It's a glimpse into the psychological impact of war on those who fought it. Jünger explores the ways in which constant exposure to violence desensitized soldiers, turning them into hardened veterans. He grapples with the concepts of fear, courage, and the camaraderie forged in the face of death. He ponders the effects of living with the constant threat of annihilation. Jünger's writing resonated with a generation scarred by war. Here finally was someone who understood what they had experienced. Instal became a bestseller, hailed by many veterans as the most authentic depiction of the Western Front. It established Jünger as a leading literary voice of his generation, a chronicler of the horrors they had endured. Ernst Jünger, inextricably linked with the First World War, experienced a reality in the trenches of the Western Front that shaped his life. As a soldier in the Brandenburg Grenadiers, he participated in the Battle of the Somme, one of the bloodiest battles in history. The Somme was an inferno of mud, blood and death. For months, Jünger and his comrades were engaged in trench warfare, constantly under fire. The trenches were synonymous with misery, a place where the lines between life and death blurred. Jünger described in his writings the ever-present fear, the smell of decay and the dehumanization that the war brought with it. The introduction of new technologies such as machine guns and poison gas radically changed the nature of warfare. The already brutal battles became even more savage. Jünger himself experienced the effects of these new weapons firsthand. The psychological consequences of the war were profound. Soldiers suffered from insomnia, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Jünger described the changes in the psyche of his comrades, how they lost their humanity and became mere survivors. Despite the horrors, a deep camaraderie developed among the soldiers. The shared experience of suffering bonded them together. This brotherhood, which could only arise in the face of death, became a central theme in Jünger's later works. The injuries that Jünger suffered were not only physical wounds, but also psychological scars. Every shot, every explosion left marks that would accompany him for the rest of his life. And yet he always returned to the front, driven by an indomitable will. The experiences at the Somme shaped Jünger's worldview. The war became his teacher, his mentor. It showed him the depths of the human soul, but also the strength of the human spirit. In his writings, particularly in Steel and Storm, Jünger processed these experiences. He describes the brutality of war, the camaraderie, the despair, and the hope he experienced in the trenches. Jünger was a complex character, a man marked by contradictions. He was a warrior and a poet, a skeptic and an idealist. His experiences in the war made him a thinker who explored the limits of human experience, and his works continue to challenge our thinking and feeling to this day. Jünger's legacy remains controversial. While some celebrate him as one of the most important German writers of the 20th century, others see him as a glorifier of violence. What is certain is that his experiences in the First World War profoundly shaped his life and work. Jünger was a witness to his time, who explored the extremes of human existence and thus forced us to confront the dark sides of our existence. His writings, filled with vivid descriptions and deep reflections, continue to resonate with readers, making us ponder the complexities of war and human nature. May he rest in peace.